Oh, yeah, we're ready. We're ready. All right, we are live. We're rolling. This is episode number 7 of the Authentic You podcast. We got our first repeat guest, Ray, my boy. Two times. To be fair, today we were actually going to do a group setting. Right. There's going to be maybe one or two other guys with us because we were going to do a group setting on guy talk, what men are going through, what we're experiencing personally. Both of us are going through some pretty unique situations in our personal lives and romantic lives. And we were going to have a couple other guys on going through some similar things, but we press forward. Guys got to go to work. Guys got to stay home, take care of the kiddos.
Done. The job has to get done no matter what. So we're here, baby. We locked in.
Well, and talk about getting the job done. You literally came off of another 12-hour shift, I'm assuming?
Hey, you know how we do, man. Taking care. The hospital don't close. We here. It don't matter. We had a good night.
Ray, how many hours a week do you work?
Man, I've been trying to cut back on that. On average, I will say probably 48, which don't seem like much, but in a 12-hour cluster, I mean, that can be take it out, It's not the actual work hours, it's the prep, especially when you work at nights. That's usually the challenge, trying to squeeze in gym, family time, whatever, and get that adequate rest, and then go back to a 12 hours overnight. You know what I mean? That can be lovely, but it's not that many hours when you think about it. Like 48 ain't nothing. Right?
Well, yeah. Well, I was just going to say that if you put it on a clock, right, like 48 straight hours for work, something you get paid for, but then obviously taking care of kids, and then you've got gym, which is obviously for most men, our therapy, like legitimately our therapy. And then you also got to take into the fact that you have your brand and you're obviously trying to grow that. So you got to invest time there.
I'm lying, bro. What am I saying? I said 48, 72 minimum. I'm sorry. 72 plus another 12. So it's a give or take. I try to cut back. It varies. Some days they don't end. They stack on top of each other. But
hey, that's a typical scenario right there where you said 48 and it really was 72. Like, Sometimes I get asked that question. People will be like, yo, how much do you work? And I'm like, I have no fucking idea.
It varies. No, real talk. Some days I feel like it's constant, nonstop, just the way they stack, and then you get a little break. So it varies, bro. I try not to keep track too much. Track my dollars for sure, but I try not to keep track. I don't want to complain about it. We do what we got to do, man. The job got to get done either way.
Yeah. Yesterday I woke up at later than expected. So like this is hitting me hard. Normally I'm the 3:30 a.m. wake up, 4 a.m. I'm out for a walk, and then the day kind of starts from there. And I end up at the gym at 5. Right. Yesterday I literally didn't get up until 4 a.m. So big old sleep in 30 minutes. Had to charge my car, and which has been an absolute disaster. I used to love my Tesla, but now that I'm not at the house, I can't plug in overnight. And so I got to plug in at a Tesla charging station, and that takes 45 minutes. And then so I literally plugged in, went for a walk, didn't end up at the gym until like almost 5:30. And then the day, starts from there. I mean, worked out till 7:30, got home, showered, got ready, ate, right? Kind of got my mental prep done by 8:30. And then I worked from 8:30 until 5:30. Okay. Like work. Yeah. Right. I had to have sent probably like 250 emails yesterday. My phone call log, I was on the phone out of that. What was that? 8 hours, 9 hours that I just said. I was on the phone for 7.5 hours yesterday. Okay. So a lot of people sometimes will be like, dude, if you don't work a physical job, like it's not, what are you complaining about? It's a mental warfare to be talking for 7 straight hours. And then when you finish that's just conversations you're having with one person or another person, then you're talking to another person. You know what I mean? It's like hopping from one conversation to the next. So it mentally wears you down.
That's mentally draining, absolutely.
So then get this. So then I'm done at 5:30. So then I give Maria a call because she's 3 hours ahead. And so normally she passes out, sometime around 8:30 or 9 o'clock. So then her and I have a little bit of time together, right? Like I'm sitting there eating. We're like laughing about just apps that we're trying out and, just having like boyfriend, girlfriend time. Yeah. Just time. And we wrap up probably around, I'd say 6:30 or 7. So like an hour and a half of conversation. And then I go back into my office and I work. Now that I don't have to be on the phone, with people. Now I still got to get jobs done. Like I have 200 plus emails in my inbox that I got to get through. Right. And it's 2 businesses.
Yeah.
Right. There's Pro Park, there's Game Day.
Okay.
I have a consulting business as well, which I really typically manage on my own time. Like it's not anything crazy or compared to the 2.
Nice.
Was then on the computer until 10:30. Finally got off, decided. Now I could have wrapped it up, but the reality is from a man or a leader or from the perspective of somebody who's an entrepreneur, the job's got to get done. So for me, unfortunately, last night, that meant I had to work, till 10:30. Then I was like, I'm hungry. I hadn't eaten dinner still to that point. Well, I had eaten with Maria at like 5, but you know how it goes. As fitness guys, big boys, you got to eat every 3 to 4 hours at the most.
Got to get those macros in, man. That protein is important.
So now that I'm awake at 10:30, which normally I'm in bed by I try to get in bed by like 9:30, 10. But now I'm wide awake. I got to eat again. So then I eat. Well, then the problem is if I eat that late, I can't take my peptides until at least an hour after I've eaten my last meal. So now I've got to stay up until 11:30. And then that was the day. And then you wake up and do it all fucking over again.
That's the catch right there. That's the catch, bro. Yeah, those days end up stacking. On average, unfortunately, I get like maybe 4 hours of sleep. How many of that is REM sleep? I don't know. Maybe 1 hour, if that, 2 hours possibly. So quality resting is all essential into what we do as men. Talk about getting the job done. You got to take care of your temple. You got to take care of your body. So I hear it all the time, but I'm guilty of that too, Joe. So we work, and we don't rest and recover enough. So something we got to do better at. But otherwise, these days everything seems like a blur. So
yeah. Well, what's funny is I woke up feeling fucking so much better today.
Did you?
I woke up feeling, I same thing. I only had like 4.5, maybe it was 5 hours of sleep because I went to sleep at like 11:30 and then my alarm, I set it again for 4 a.m. this morning. So depending on what time I actually fell asleep and what time I, you know what I mean? Depending on the tossing and turning, right? It's probably 4.5, 5 hours of sleep. And I woke up today feeling better than the day before when I got more rest. That's weird. It's really weird. And I felt stronger today in the gym.
Did you?
And I wonder if a lot of it has to do with the mentality of I got the job done yesterday. You know what I mean? So like because I decided yesterday, I was like, you know what? Whatever. I'm just going to power through all this stuff. I got to get this done. I have all these things written down. I've had all these conversations with all these different people. Multiple different people are relying on me to get the job done, right? Personally, professionally, like they want me to get the job done. It's on my shoulders to do it. Right? I can't pass it on to anybody. So I powered through all that and I woke up today and I feel fucking amazing. And I wonder if there's something to that, like for us guys, you know what I mean? Like that sense of like I wonder if I got better REM sleep last night because I didn't go to bed thinking, oh my God, tomorrow I need to take care of this and I need to do that. I went to bed feeling like I took care of everything I could possibly do and some. And now I get the benefit of waking up to like going to bed clear-headed.
That is interesting. That's I can relate a little bit to that. When I was in school, all of us students, experience higher cortisol levels because of the stress. The fear of failure, the fear of not being able to accomplish or pass a test or quiz, or whatever have you, and that causes that little bit of stress enhances your focus in that time, like an Adderall, so to speak. But at the same token, turning off the cortisol, turning off all of that stuff to get some quality sleep usually is the challenge. So I think on a grand scale, and this is a life lesson, if we can win more days than not, if we can rest more days than those, because there's going to be nights that, like Joe, it's just one day is going to stack right behind the next. Yeah. So I think on the grand scale, out of that 7-day stretch, how many days are you winning? It's the same thing that's applicable to our diet. You can miss a day or, hopefully not. Everybody needs to be consistent. But no matter what you do, it's how many days can you win out of that 7-day stretch, however you want to break it down. So, and hopefully we have a little reservoir of energy, of focus. And like you said, there's a lot of mental fortitude that can translate into, I think, progression, in my opinion. So when you are focused, when your back is against the wall, and you have your mindset. If Joe didn't have his mindset to say, you know what, granted, I've accomplished all of this today, I still got to wake up and do it again tomorrow because that's what champions do. That's what warriors do. They repeat the same successful steps over and over until it's just embedded. Yeah. Until that schedule is just, replicating itself over and over again, and your excellence is repeated. So kudos to that sort of mentality. I think you could have said, you know what, I'm taking this day off. I'm taking this gym day off. But you need to have that mentality. And this is this is the mindset of an entrepreneur, guys. So tap in on that sort of mentality. That's key. That's free game right there. It's non-negotiable, and that's a key word. So I think you have that mentality. I think a lot of us share that in different aspects. But if you can do that, we'll do better. As individuals, as men, we'll do better. We're going to need that. We'll talk a little bit more, but we'll definitely need that to get through all the complications and the scenarios and situations that we go through as men, as people. So I like that.
The other part about that too, and I appreciate the compliment, but the reality is it's not always like that. You know what I mean? And so often, I think even for me, I'll just be honest, a lot of times and I think a lot of decently successful individuals are very proud fathers or business people or friends or whatever. Like a lot of us are tricked into putting on a facade that everything is perfect. I for sure, before Authentic You and in my past marriage, I 100% was putting on a facade that everything was perfect all the time. And, one of the scenarios that I just want to kind of bring up was actually the only real time I can think that I ever had a full-on mental breakdown, it finally got the straw, finally broke the camel's back, you know what I mean? And I fell off. So this was last year. It had to have been, it had to have been around, it had to have been after August and before October, in that time frame. I can't remember exactly of last year. Yeah, I can't remember exactly when it was, but basically to lead up to give the pressure. So I have all the normal things that I would every day, right? I have my work life, my personal life, my professional life, entrepreneur, like all those things kind of happening. My sister had passed away in August, and I had this added oh my God, what else is going to happen? Because leading up to that, there were so many. Julie's grandma passed away. Our dog passed away in May. Julie's grandma passed away. My sister passed away. Then my grandma passed away. And I was just like, all this loss was there. And there was this pressure to hold firm. And I've talked about that a lot. Like for my sister specifically, I talked about you got to hold firm. Like somebody has to be the rock in the river. Somebody has to be the person that everyone else can rely on when shit is hitting the fan. Someone has to be that person that everyone can go to. For my sister's passing, I was that person, and I chose to be that person. But what I did not realize what that was going to do after I held firm, right? So what a lot of people always see is wow, you're taking all this on, you're taking care of everything for your mom and for your family, and doing her death certificate and getting the burial situated and hosting the celebration of life. And I held firm through all that. What I didn't expect was the aftermath from that. So all of a sudden I was like, okay, well now you just have to stay like that. Don't break. Don't let anybody see you fucking. Don't let them see the rock kind of push down a little bit because the stream got a little too heavy. And all of a sudden, then I was running into cash reserve issues with game day. I'm writing a $20,000 check every month that we operate that place. Not a lot of people know that. It's not cash positive. We're not making money yet, right? We're 2/3 of the way there. So I got to figure out how to pay the bills every month. I'm writing a $20,000 check. That's heavy. I'm not a fucking billionaire. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's a heavy check to write.
Yeah.
And then for Pro Park, there was an executive presentation that had to be made, and this was where the straw hit. I had probably put together, I don't know, it had to have been 4 or 6 hours worth of work, right? It might not sound like a lot, but 4 or 6 hours of a presentation that you've put together, and I had made the mistake of not clicking the good old auto save at the top, and normally I do. Very simple rookie mistake to make. I closed my computer. Gone. Call it 4 hours of work or 6 hours of work. It is now 5 p.m. I'm in Anaheim. Just had a stressful day. I need to get on the road to go home to pick up Mateo for his boxing practice. That's at 7. Well, Anaheim to to Lake Elsinore. It could be a 2-hour drive during that period of time during the day. It's very risky. Now I also know that I'm going to be at boxing until 8 p.m. And now I got to figure out how to do this 4-hour presentation all over again. And I mean like all over again. There was nothing saved. And I'm just sitting there and I'm like just what do I do? I'm going through like Googling how to fix things and I'm trying to figure out how to recover that file. It's like the file's gone. You know what I mean? Like in hindsight, looking at it, it was such a silly thing. It was just like but it was so, I literally start tearing up and I'm just like fucking freaking out. And, you know, Julie's in the conference room. This is before her and I separated, and she's in the conference room and she's just kind of looking at me and like, she's like, oh my God, he's losing his fucking shit over here. It's just a fucking PowerPoint. Like, you know, like, I mean, I'm assuming that's some of the thought process, right? And it just hit me. I was like, fuck all of this. Like all of this, like fuck everything, like fuck my life, fuck everything. Like, and I'm just like borderline about to cry over a PowerPoint presentation. And I just had to sit there. She walked out, closed the office door or closed the conference door because I was just like, you could tell I was just done. It was just done. I just sat there for probably a good half an hour. And then I was like, okay, that's it. Closed my computer. I was like, for right now, there's nothing I can do. And it sucks. And I was like, there's nothing I could do. I have to get on the road or I'm going to miss Mateo's boxing. So as a guy, what do? You just fucking get the job done. Drove home, picked him up, went to boxing, was in a shit mood, just literally fucking thinking about it. I'm like, oh, and by the way, that presentation, I forgot to mention this. That presentation is Eastern time. Okay? It's 3 hours ahead. 10 a.m. their time, 7 a.m. my time. Like, you know what I mean? Finish up, take Mateo, drop him off. I get back to my house and I'm like, it's like 8 or 9 o'clock at that point in time. And I'm just like, all right, I'm going to wing it. Fuck it. Fuck that 4-hour presentation. I pulled up my last quarterly meeting that I had with my team. And I just basically cleaned up like maybe 2 or 3, maybe 20, 30 minutes. 20, 30 minutes. And then the next day when I did the presentation, I just winged it. Just pulling shit out, you know, like this is how I'm going to present it. This is what we're working on within the region. This is what I presented to my team. These are the things that we're going to be continuing to work on. It went fine. Nice. It went totally fine. But after that, I just kept, it burned in my mind. How often do I do that I put on a facade that I'm okay? And I feel like, I think a lot of guys do. I think that was probably the straw that broke the camel's back where like I couldn't resist hiding it. Like I couldn't hide it from myself. I couldn't hide it from anybody that was around me that I had just lost my shit. But I was like wondering, I was like, how often do I do this? Where I pretend I'm okay. I pretend I'm that rock in the river. I don't really know the answer to that. I feel like it's probably 25% of the time. I actually feel like it's a bigger percentage. And I don't know, I'm just throwing out a number there. Yeah. But if I was to say, if somebody was to ask me 4 like times, like, hey, how are you? I would probably tell them I'm fine all of 4 of those times.
Absolutely.
And I bet you one of those 4 times I'm not okay.
Definitely not okay.
Yeah. That was probably a lot to digest.
No, that's a lot. It's I think it's relative. I mean, I think anybody listening is going to be able to relate, especially men, right? That's what we're talking about. It's going to relate to exactly how you feel, what you're talking about, in our various lives and situations. How often are we genuinely asked though, how are you doing? Like many people say
with intention.
Right. And I think that just no matter, granted we're talking about ourselves and men here, but just in general for anybody listening, like, be genuine when you do ask somebody, how are you? Sometimes you need to brace yourself and be ready to be patient enough to really get an honest answer if they give it to you, because society ain't gonna let you be honest. Society won't let you be vulnerable, especially as a man.
Yeah.
Especially as a man. There's so many different expectations and social, norms, quote unquote, that a man is, they put us in this box of what we're supposed to do, how we're supposed to conduct ourselves and act. And we're supposed to have this mask that says, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Because if not, you're weak. You're a weak man. You're breaking down. You're crying. You can't handle the pressure. You're weak. That's the association when you are vulnerable. And that's just sad, bro. And I'm glad your transparency is being displayed, because all of us, I feel like every man that has lived a life or is living should be able to relate to that break, not maybe the breaking point, depending on how old you are and what you've gone through, but definitely feeling that feel of I'm stressed all the way out.
Yeah.
I'm at my limit. I don't feel okay. I don't know what I'm going to do next, and there's likely nobody to comfort you, right?
Yeah.
And if there is, it's not open, it's not pure. So it's hurtful to hear that you did feel that way and that you went through it,
Yeah.
and it's joyful to hear that you were able to put a lot of those thoughts, you were in your head a lot. And granted, you were actually going through a lot, dealing just from the deaths alone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? On top of that, just trying to be an honorable father and to act out your obligation to take him somewhere. Most parents would be like, I can't deal with that right now. I need to do my work. I need to do this. But you still made sure that was a part of your task to do so. So these are all the different hats that we wear as a businessman, as a father, trying to be the keystone in your family in terms of emotional support and things of that nature. There's a lot that we bear, you know what I mean? And this Joe's just an example in this particular plight of what he was going through. And that's sad, bro. And that is very much a reality that we all carry.
Yeah.
Having to fake it per se. You know what I mean? And that's just something that we got to do better at a society. We got to get help as men. We got to be able to have healthy releases. You know what I mean? Pressure can only build up so long before something happens.
Yeah.
And that's all of us. And we hope that we don't spiral, maybe in a psychotic manner. There's many people that break down and they don't all the way recover. They have a full mental breakdown, and that's why there's mental institutions for things like that. So as men, we that's part of mental health, right? That's part of health.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I feel for you in that. I feel for you, and I can relate to that.
I think one of the things is, there's a couple of different things to like unpack from that overall. I think we all have to do a better job of being more vulnerable. Mm-hmm. And I think the more, since that situation and probably the last just 6 months of my life in general, like the last 4 specifically, since Julie and I have separated, I've had to be a lot more vulnerable about who I am and the mistakes I've made and the mistakes I keep making. And I have to be vulnerable of having those conversations with people, whoever they are. Like if I do spiral and I do have an emotional episode, whether it's aggression, or whatever it is, a lot of times it's aggression, like I feel like when we're at our worst, like when we're actually, something's going really bad for us and we need help, it comes out as aggression. It's almost like, absolutely. You know what I mean? And so, one of the things Maria's been really good about with me is she actually asked me this question, and at first it really did piss me off. And now I realized I needed it I need it. She, instead of saying, hey, how are you? She says, are you okay? She'll ask me, are you okay? Okay. Like if I'm being an asshole, or and I'm not specifically an asshole to her, but you can tell if someone's having a bad day. Yeah. You can tell if someone's having a bad day. Hey, are you okay? Or if I'm being mute, that's a big thing for me. On camera, people probably are like, oh, this dude's always super, super talkative. I am around the right settings, but to be frank, when I'm going through something, I turtle shell. Like I literally, I won't want to talk to people. I might not take out my headphones when I'm passing people in the gym that I normally would say what's up to. I'll ignore a phone call and pretend I was like busy. You know what I mean? Like if I know I can't present myself this way, I usually revert to just don't communicate, which is not good, right? And so she's actually been very good about being like, hey, talk to me. Are you okay? Right? What's going on? And sometimes you just need that outlet. Now, me and my friends are also starting to do that with each other. Good. Right? Good. And the other day, I had a conversation with one of my friends where I personally feel like I've been a little bit of a bad friend because I've been so busy that I didn't realize that some of my friends were going through some stuff, 2 of them specifically. And one of my friends was just making small talk. And I could kind of sense it. And I said, ooh, I'm going to pull this out. I'm like, hey man, are you okay? Yeah. Yeah. And 45 minutes of waterworks, you know what I mean? And I didn't realize fuck man, how many of us are going through this shit? A lot of times we're almost always going through the same thing. I think a lot of men, and this is myself, we just feel an obligation to provide security. However that is, it could be financial, it could be physical, it could be emotional, but just security in for a lot of times women. But sometimes it's also just for your friends. You know what I mean? And it's very tough to constantly provide that type of protection because, you know, like it's like a brick wall. Like, you know, it's the rock in the, like you literally have to be so firm and so consistent always. It almost leaves no room to break, and you need it. We all need that fucking mental de-stress. And I just think, unfortunately, like we get stuck in this, like we have to provide, we have to provide, we have to provide, we have to be, everyone needs to be able to depend on me. When things are going wrong, it's my job to fix it. You know, we become these like weird, like we need to fix the problem. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's not what's happening. Sometimes people just need you to listen. They don't need you to solve the problem. They just need you to listen. They don't even want your opinion. They don't want your advice. They just need to release.
Yes.
Hey, this is what I'm going through.
The pressure can build up. Yeah.
This is what I'm going through. Do you mind me talking? And sometimes when they just talk it out, it's like it makes you feel better at the end of the day. Yeah. You know, it literally makes you feel better. So,
yeah, taking right from where Joe left off, I mentioned counseling as that is an opportunity for a lot of men and women, whoever's participating in such, to vent, to release a lot of that pressure. And I think I mentioned men because we don't do it enough. And I'll open up a little bit as well. I was in an engagement for almost 6 years. And one of the biggest issues, I mean, there's relationships, so many different issues that arise. But one of the biggest issues is feeling the accumulation of that pressure and no healthy release. You know, being in the different seasons within this engagement and not always feeling like the partner is alongside of you. And as you tackle on life's, you know, different pitches and different scenarios, you know, you want to be able to feel like you are right beside your life partner, not just your wife, not just your husband, not just the mother or the father of your child, but a life partner who's going to get in that ring and go toe to toe with whatever comes your way, that attitude. Yeah. And if you need to release it, and if you're tired, if you need to tag them in, they need to be ready to be tagged in. And that was something that I burnt out about. And I felt myself changing. I felt myself becoming someone that I'm not. I am genuine. I do love people. I have a great heart, and I know I do. And I felt myself becoming bitter. You know, when pressure and stress accumulates, it creates a whole different beast in you. And some of these symptoms that Joe mentioned are very common. A lot of us shut down. A lot of us go ghost. And these are very unhealthy signs because you get attacked, you get isolated, you feel like no one hears you, you feel like no one understands you, you feel like your worth is depleted because maybe you're not excelling in every aspect of your life. We have this unrealistic expectation that we're supposed to just thrive through every chapter and every, you know, phase of our life because we are the man, the backbone, you know what I mean? And at the end of the day, you're human. You got flesh just like everybody else. You bleed, you pee, you know, you shit just like everybody else. Yeah. You're no different. You know, we may be strong in our various ways, but that's something that I wish people talk about more regarding friendships, regarding engagements, marriages. I haven't been married, so I can't really give too much in that aspect. But in relationships, I mean, you know, in just relationships in general, having that healthy outlet, having those healthy conversations of how are you? You know what I mean? Yeah. I understand. I'm not even asking, are you going through something? I know you are. How are you? How can we talk about this? How can I make you feel heard? How can I help you in whatever way? It doesn't always have to be dealing with monetary things. It could be just, you know, your daily thing. How can I make your thought process, your emotions, how can I alleviate some of that pressure? Because you will not be the best you when these issues are not resolved or at least addressed. You know, give your partner an opportunity to express what's going on before they crumble, before they become someone that's indefinitely different. Yeah. So that's you know, and a lot of women, they want this hero of a man, but they don't provide him an opportunity to be human at the same time. You know what I mean? Dude. You know, you can't have this individual that's just bearing on all these things for so long. I guarantee you at some point, something's going to change. Yeah. And it's not always infidelity. People, they like to think like, oh, you know, he's tired of her, so he's just going to go cheat. It's not always that, you know what I mean? They lose themselves. They lose, you know, you guys lose a friendship. Yeah. That's the most painful part of it all. As this person, resentment grows. Yeah. You know, that's the craziest thing to know, that you can, you know, have the craziest life and experiences with someone. And because maybe you felt invisible or things just really went downhill, and then not only do you not have a relationship with that individual, but you no longer even want to look at them in their face because you're so offended, because you're so overwhelmed, and now you are an entire different beast.
Yeah.
So that's just these are the effects of pressure. This is what stress can do when it is not properly addressed. And that's one of the most undiagnosed things in the medical field is just the mental aspect, the mind. It's so hard to figure that out.
Yeah.
Someone can come in like Joe, who's tough, who has this poker face, and you can't quite read it. Vitals look good. Everything that's objective looks good. But trying to figure out what's going on in the mind that connects to the heart, that's something that's hard to talk about. It's hard to diagnose. So, I encourage us all to have those healthy releases, to have that healthy, release of pressure, and have these healthy conversations among your boys, among your partner, or whoever it is.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that that's a healthy habit that you picked up. That seems to be new. Is to be able to
it is
talk
new.
about that.
It is new.
I love that.
Yeah. I mean, you said a couple key pieces, and I'm going to get vulnerable here too. And look, I at the end of the day, I definitely don't want to, my separation and now soon to be divorce, is obviously still very raw. And so I'll do my best to not speak for, Julie and say her part of things. For sure, she should have a voice. I mean, I've even said, hey, maybe at some point we'll have to sit across from each other here and talk through some stuff. I don't know if that it's an option, but maybe one day. I will say this. I mean, you hit on a couple key things. Number one, you originally it said bitter, and then right now you said resentment. Resentment for me hit first. Resentment actually hit first, and it was actually right when that situation happened, when I had that breakdown. I literally couldn't get it out of my mind. It was like, what else am I fucking going through? And I was going through a lot. Now, there has been a time early in my life, right around the time that I overdosed when I was 19. I was in another relationship. I was engaged. A lot of people don't know this. I met Julie at what was supposed to be my engagement to my high school sweetheart. That was the first day her and I met. My cousin brought her over to what was supposed to be my engagement party, and we were ending everything. And so I started thinking about the resentment that I had back then. And I had, like, after that scenario, I'd contemplated suicide, and there was a true point in my life where, like, that was really an option for me. Like, I literally was 10 months, like 9 or 10 months sober, and I thought I was in a new healthy relationship, and then that all of a sudden fucking fell apart, and I'd barely just met Julie. And I honestly was like, why? Like, what am I fucking doing here? I'm such a piece of shit. Nobody loves me. I don't even love myself. You know what I mean? I'm not even a year clean. And I just was like, I thought about way different options, multiple different options, I do plan to have a good friend on this podcast. We're going to actually talk about suicide awareness. And
That's
we're going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about my specific experience at that point in time. But bitterness and resentment was a key point in that period of time. And all of a sudden, here I was in a almost 15-year relationship, feeling that way about my partner. And so I had actually brought it up to her and told her, I said, hey, I'm not feeling okay. And there's a lot of things that go on in my family's history, mental, like I have one who's schizophrenic, one who dementia falls into our family. But a lot of times it's basically like that kind of psychotic, I don't even know what the term is for it, but basically, I have family members that unfortunately, like they do talk to themselves. They have bipolarness, like it runs in my family, that aspect. Now, I just think I'm an overthinker. I don't think I'm bipolar. I don't think I'm schizophrenic. I don't think I'm any of that bullshit. But, Julie was well aware of my family history and all those things. And I started to express to her, I was like, I'm thinking about things I haven't thought about before. And I don't want to say I was 6 months ago suicidal or anything like that, but I was definitely, the pressure was for sure getting to me. And I was like, man, like, what is it? And I started to realize it was resentment. It was resentment towards her, resentment towards my kids, which none of them did anything. They did no wrong necessarily, right? What happened was I didn't feel people were there for me. And it wasn't just them. It was everyone. It was my friends.
That's
it
crazy.
was,
That's crazy.
it was, you know what I mean? It wasn't, it's not like anyone intended to do anything to me,
but it's a trigger.
But it was the trigger, and it's how I felt. And then I just went on this rabbit hole and just constant overthink. And I started to just realize, like, I was just like, man, like, I'm not okay. And, again, I'm going to be real authentic here. a lot of times when I'm in that scenario, I start looking for attention, and I started looking to women for that attention, and
Yeah, he's being so transparent
I'm
right
being
now.
super transparent
You
here.
guys gotta
Now,
appreciate
look,
this. Take this. Don't judge. Just
yeah,
take this for what it is.
yeah,
This is really authentic stuff right here.
but it's, and it's unfortunate. I don't believe I'm a good person for doing this, but I have at least, I have at least answered as many questions authentically and raw in person with Julie as she's asked. Every question she's asked, did I cheat on her? Yes. Did I, was it just with one person? No. You know what I mean? Like she knows, from both the past years and years ago in our early relationship and present,
Present, yeah.
And the reality is, what I didn't think about during that period of time is maybe I just wasn't being loved appropriately. Now, it's not her job to love me the way that I need. It's her job to love me the way she's capable of. Correct. Okay. So no judgment to her. She was loving me the way she was capable of. It just wasn't what I needed. It wasn't enough. And over 15 years, it changes. And I really just woke up one day and was like, I don't feel the love. I don't feel the love. And so I started searching for that, and to be honest, I tried to put multiple girls in that box of like, hey, you want to just, I'm just going to stay married, and I'm going to try to talk to other girls and get that attention from whoever. And it actually took Maria, my current girlfriend, not current as in like there's going to be multiple. She's amazing, love of my life. I'm like 100% on that at this point in time, like destined to fucking be together. I tried to throw her into that box because I was just attracted to her. Mm-hmm. And she was like, fuck you, you're married, right? Good for her. She stood her ground. Mm-hmm. But she asked me that question. As she got to know me, she asked me that question. She said, hey, have you ever thought of it this way? What if you're just not being loved appropriately? What if you just, and I just kept thinking about that. I was like, fuck, like here I am seeking attention from other people when maybe I just don't love myself. Maybe, you know what I mean? Like maybe there's something else that's going on, and I shouldn't be with anybody. And I should honestly take that period of time to like reflect on myself. And through months of friendship, her and I had a lot of conversations, nothing physical ever. And, I think the more and more we had conversations, the more and more I realized she was right. I wasn't loving myself. I was putting on a facade. I was trying to be, somebody I wasn't. And it just made me completely rethink about like relationships and the relationship that I was in and what I wanted to do and how I wanted to be treated and how I wanted to treat that person. And definitely there's a lot of flaws as guys that we have, but I was like, if I'm going to be okay, I need to address this because it's been like this for years. You know what I mean? And I had to ask myself those questions. And, Maria and I are now been together for 3 months. I ended things with Julie. We're going into month 4. Did we do things appropriately entering into our relationship? Probably I should have done things better. I think she was very, very standoffish herself. I should have done things better, but I realized that for me to be able to move on, like I just needed to say it. Like, I'm not happy. I'm putting on a facade. I'm not okay. I don't feel loved. Here's what's going on, and fucking move on.
That takes a lot of courage. And
to say all that?
No, just to
do it.
I just think that honesty. I think people in relationships lack that honesty. And I think that was a part of my issue in my engagement too, is just being honest about expectations, being honest about current feelings. Sometimes we're so fixated on seeing that individual happy. Sometimes we're not really authentically just transparent about all of it, our expectations, how we currently feel, what we want more of. Things of that nature. I don't think the average couple is completely transparent with it. And if they are, I guarantee you they're probably doing a lot better than I am.
Yeah.
But I will say, as a father, you said a lot, Joe. You said a lot. And as a father, I can only think about the future me, which is my kids. I have an inherited beauty named Logan that I met at 6 years old. And I was able to instill some love in her and just some affirmations. And I constantly shower. I just keep pouring compliments. and positive things into their brain, and just to make them grow just appreciation of themselves, so that they believe some of these things, that they feel loved, that they feel confident, that they do love themselves. Self-love, you mentioned that you didn't love yourself. That is such a problem that can cause such a big snowball effect.
Yeah.
I can relate 1000% to that. I had, unfortunately, I was just that kid in the projects who didn't have great parents. One was a worker. My mom got me through that situation. We didn't have the best relationship, and we're still building on that right now. It's been kind of rocky. My dad hasn't been present in any phase of my life, really. So I didn't have the emotional structure. I didn't have the positive affirmations. I didn't have these things that was building my character. And at school, they don't help you either. You go there, you learn, you go home. They don't. Not too many teachers will sit and assist. There are some great ones out there, I'm sure, but I didn't get a chance to run across any that changed my life emotionally or pulled me to the side and checked on me like that. So a lot of these kids are just growing up and just going through the motions, and eventually they realize that they lack self-love, and it translates into marriages, it translates into friendships, it translates into a variety of relationships. And I think that's huge. So I get the chance as a father, as a young kid, and if anybody is a parent, you can shower your kids with these positive, loving actions, expressions, words that you can build this confidence of, and that they can in a healthy manner pour into someone else. And I feel like I was being drained in my engagement. I was having this savior complex. I had these high aspirations and expectations of me and her together and where we can go. And it was draining to know that I couldn't get there. Every time I made a stride, I was kind of pulled down, and I don't want to get too deep into it, but just because of the ambition, because of just the lack of paying attention to the things that I desire, not pouring into me in the ways that I needed. My ex fiance was very attentive to my body, just the little things that I may ask around the house, things like that. She was very great with, and that can only go so far. There's things that we need poured into us at different times, and some are more valuable than others depending on the season. So you can't just love someone in one way the entire time and think that it's going to be enough. Relationships and situations and families, they change. So everything changes. So I have that issue with her not being poured into. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And once we get to that point of depletion and we already feel like we never obtain self-love, we don't have value, these things kind of just pour on us. And when it rains, it pours.
Yeah.
And we get to this emotional rock bottom, right? And now the person that we thought was going to have our back through thick and thin is causing more stress when we enter our place of safety at home. You get to the F it mentality, like you did. And then suicide starts coming up. Why am I here? Where's my value? Yeah. What am I good for? I can't provide. I'm not thriving in every area of my life. I'm not Superman, right? I don't have as much money as the next guy. You know what I mean? Maybe I don't, whatever the insecurity or whatever the issue may be, you feel less than because you don't have these things. And that right there is a fallacy in itself of thinking that we need that to become anything. Your worth is your worth because you are who you are.
Yeah.
No such thing as a life that's better than yours. J. Cole. It's love yours. You got to know, you got to be authentic with yourself and know, even if I don't have X, Y, and Z, I am me. Yeah. And that's enough.
Yeah.
And I want to get to where I need to get to, and my feelings and aspirations are valid. Yeah. And you can either rock with me in this train, or you can go the other way.
Yeah, I think that was, again, also super raw. I appreciate you fucking putting all of that out there, and like some of the things I heard you touch on that I kind of want to follow up to. It sounds like for both of us in our past relationship, we're not faulting them for anything. We're specifically saying they were who they were and did what they needed to do. But what we needed was something more than, right? And a lot of it had to do with how we needed to feel to continue to be ourselves. Like, we're very driven individuals, and sometimes just being a driven person, like, you really do feel like, maybe unintentionally, but it's a catch-22 where it's like, you want to be driven, you want to provide, you want to do all these things, but you need the time to do it. And then there's criticism for you doing it. And it's like, it's almost like our own self-love. Like, our self-love is by accomplishing things and doing things and achieving things. But then if we're not able to have those things or chase those things, or we're getting criticized for those things, then like, fuck, what are we supposed to do? What do you want me to do? Like, it's so hard as a man to like find that balance of what you want. And I will say this, like, and I have actually said this to everyone who's asked me about it. I've said it to her specifically. I wouldn't change a thing. Like, Julie is who she is. She's an amazing human being. I would never fault her for anything. I just, at the end of the day, didn't feel loved anymore, didn't feel appreciated, and I wasn't loving myself. And I also realized that there was 10 times other things that I want to do and wanted to do that I felt that I wasn't going to be able to do without personally putting her in a bad position or the kids in a bad position or feeling bad about doing those things, right? Like, sometimes I want to work till fucking 11 p.m. at night. I want to. I don't want to sit on the couch. I don't want to go to that family party. I don't want to do some of those things. I want to do this. It makes me feel, my friend Ben actually told me this. He's like, man, you might not ever be good in a relationship because you just constantly want to do things. Constantly want to do things that you want to do. And maybe that is the case. I think Maria's done a great job of managing my expectations and my work life and my ambitions and things of that nature. But he was like very specific. He's like, dude, you might be that type of guy that just is so on the go, so driven, so wants to do things that you're going to have to be by yourself. I don't think that's the case. I think Maria and I have an amazing ambitious, both of us are extremely ambitious and driven. And we've made this long distance relationship actually to both of our advantage, where it's like the timing difference of everything like allows her and I to actually both get the things done that we need to do. She can focus on school and her dentistry and her specialty that she's working on for orthodontics. Like she can do all those things while I'm doing all my things and chasing and then when we come together, it's just nothing but love and appreciation, admiration, inspiration for one another. She inspired me yesterday. She was like sick working out. I inspired her by me getting the job done and working out. Like, it's just, eventually I think what has to happen is everyone needs to, whether you're single or you end up in a new relationship, you have to be yourself 100% across the board. If you want to accomplish something, you need to go after it. And there's no reason for speed bumps or, anything. Like, the partner, if they are truly going to be there for you, they will support everything, even if they don't agree with you. They should be willing to support the decision that you're trying to make, and they understand your rationale. Even if they don't maybe agree with it, they're like, well, if that's what you want to do, I'm here for you. And I want to watch you do it. And I hope you're successful at it. You know what I mean? Like, otherwise, what's the point? Like, what are you in the relationship for? You know what I mean?
I think that ties into friendships. I think when you are committed as a friend, and that can be relative to a homie or especially your life partner, whoever they may be, that support, you give them an honest opinion about something, but at the end of the day, if that's their decision, you support it. That's just a quality of a friend.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that, then what do you have in a relationship? And I want to go back and say, I don't want anyone listening to listen to either of our stories and be encouraged to depart from what they do have, because I think a lot of us do have awesome jewels that can be awesome assets that maybe just need a little bit of a different approach to their relationships. I don't want to discourage you from continuing your relationship, your situation per se. This is just our reality, but I don't want you guys to feel that way. I don't want you to listen to this and think we're just, F her, leave her. It's not always the case. Some of you got a jewel that you're probably not going to get again, and you might want to stick with her. Yeah. But
can I jump in on that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Actually, on that one, I will say this. About 5 years into our relationship, my relationship with Julie, I had that feeling. And then we pressed forward. And about 10 years into our relationship, I had that feeling. And we pressed forward. And we got to the 15-year mark. We got to 15-year mark. And, some of the things that I told her at that like the dinner for the 15-year, like, it is true. Like, I literally, like, the problem for me is not anything for her specifically or whatever. It was all me. You know what I mean? And so, like, your partner, you and your partner can communicate. It could have easily been a 30-year marriage or relationship or whatever. It very could have easily been like that. But I personally made a decision that I just felt there was a road I wasn't walking down, and I also felt that I personally, like I said, I was getting into a mentality that was very scary, where I didn't want to communicate with people. I didn't want to tell people I was not happy. I wasn't okay. I didn't want to tell people about the pressures I was going through. And I felt a lot of that had to do with I needed to be a strong provider.
See.
Perfect. Right here. Right.
See.
And one of the things that I've told people is the best way to describe it is I could be in a room full of people that I know love me. Okay. And I felt alone. I felt extremely isolated and extremely alone. And I never want to be there again. I never want to be there again. I would much rather be by myself and not necessarily needed by anybody than to put myself back in that position of feeling I'm not providing enough for people or feeling I'm not doing my job as a husband or a father or a boyfriend, a business partner, a leader, whatever. I would much rather give up everything, which is essentially what I did, than continue to press forward and put on a facade to all these other people. Mm-hmm. And now I think because I tore it down so much, you know what I mean? Like most people, like they'll look at your life and be like, wow, like you know what I mean? Like you're accomplishing this, you're doing that. Like you have all this top of the pyramid and then nobody wants to tear it all the way back down. I fucking went all the way back down.
I was going to say, for people listening to 15 years, that's a big investment.
To move out, to leave all your assets behind, to say, hey, you know, like.
To commit for 15 years.
Well,
so it wasn't an impulsive decision to
no.
Things that have
it felt impulsive.
Somebody listening might think, like, oh, you just up and left.
It felt impulsive to a lot of people. It felt, and to be honest with you, there was no way to do it other than that. I know there's probably 1,000 different suggestions on the way that I could have done it.
Right.
You know, to be fair, what I did was I wrote a letter.
People watching.
I wrote a letter, handed it to her, and then I told her right before, like, you know, bedtime, essentially. I said, hey, remember how I said I wasn't okay? I'm not okay. And, you know, it was very unfortunate, very, like, the emotional aspect of it was very, 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 very fucking tough. And the next week was tough. And you go through all the stages of, you know, of it. You know, it's a trauma. And I feel really bad for the way that I did it. But I can't, I've literally tried 1,000 times to think of how else could I have done it. Other than rip off the Band-Aid, other than, well, you know, the big problem was that, you know, I'm in a relationship now with somebody that I was talking to and emotionally cheating on and, you know, doing that before I'd actually separated with Julie. And so that's the big problem for a lot of people. And I totally understand that. I totally get that. But you can't help who you talk to and who you fall in love with. Like, you just can't. Like, I'm sorry. There's just no way to escape that. And I'll be judged for that, however God deems that appropriate. But in my opinion, this was all, I'm a walking vessel and God paints the map and, you know, has the road designed for me. And he gives me the ability to make choices. And this was one of the choices he put in front of me. And I took my choice. You know what I mean? Good, bad, ugly, whatever you want to, we won't know until the fucking final day. Right. But it's the life I chose, you know, it's the decision I made.
See, he's farther ahead. You know, it's hard to speak. He's talking from years of being in marriage and a lot of experience, and I'm not quite there. But if I can paint a picture of what I would want within a marriage, just for us to have commonalities and passion for our commonalities and come together happy with what we're pursuing and understanding that that other individual is also happy and what they're pursuing and that they're lining up and that they're at least going in that similar direction, that it doesn't feel like anything else other than you are for me and I am for you.
Yeah.
And our self or individual happiness is our individual responsibilities, and what we create and the commonalities of them is what I would consider joy. And I hope, and then obviously there's so many other factors from just constantly dating, keeping our temple together as we want to maintain attraction for each other, you know, being mentally stimulated, you know what I mean? That's a lot of issues. So one of the issues I had as well, you know, you want to be able to relate and what you're thinking and be stimulated and thoughts spring forward. But to create that sort of bond and hope that you can go the distance, because it is a beautiful thing when I see these older couples with the diamond marriage.
Yeah.
And let's be real, it's hard to do. You got to get together at like 20 or so and live a healthy life on top of that. But, you know, that's always the goal. But, you know, also being just real and transparent with yourself about how you're feeling. And I think if everyone did that, relationships would end much sooner. Like, I don't know if your 15-year marriage would have been reduced or not. I feel like, or it can go the distance when things.
I think it
just,
played I think it played the course it was supposed to. I think it was meant to be a long-term relationship like that, and I think it's just over the. I mean, listen, we met when
I'm sure that served great purpose too. By the way,
for sure,
much joy. You have a son out of that.
Accomplished tons together, tons together.
And to her for that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I would never discredit any of that. You know, like I do think like we grew up together,
right?
And so there's a different respect level that is achieved through that. But that also means that, you know, most people don't really know who they are until their 30s, you know, until their mid-30s. You really learn who you are. And I think by that time, all that time was already invested as children growing up. You know what I mean? And once you finally figure out who you are and have these mental breakdowns and have these stresses and have all these life exposures, like there's only so many lessons you can learn in life. Like when you talk to somebody who's in their 40s, God, you look at them and you're just like, fucking, they're also wise. And people in their 50s and their 60s. It's why I really enjoy talking to people who are older than me, right? Because you look at them and it's like anyone I talk to who's in a second marriage, they always have this. They've got some good relationships, dude. Because they went through something similar, or they went through an experience. They learned, you know, what was going to make that healthy next relationship. To your point, okay, I will say Maria's probably she's my fucking best friend, dude. She knows every dirty little secret. Like I ended up, because before we actually decided we were going to get together and be boyfriend or girlfriend, we were friends. We weren't anything else. Like I tried to put her in the box of, hey, do you want to be a side girl? And she's like, fuck you, right? So then I was like, no, now I got a girl.
Hold on, dude. How you approach her with that? What you say to her?
Oh, no, we're not going into that. We're not going. No, that was not. It really wasn't that. It wasn't that dirty of a thing. I mean, I just
it was more of a not so aggressive approach, maybe, or
there was a clear attraction for sure. There was a clear attraction, but she was respectful in the sense that she was like, you're married. We're not gonna do nothing, right? And so we just became friends. And actually, she would talk to me about guys she was dating and guys she was talking to, and I would tell her about my mistakes that I've made over the past years, and I would talk to her about how I was feeling and what was going on, and we actually just kept going off. Now, a lot of people, that's very rare. You know what I mean? Like she literally was talking to me about another guy she was talking to at the gym. You know what I mean? Like, and
how did that make you feel?
You know what? At the time, well, I had already said we were friends. So in my mind, she was in the friend box. You know what I mean? It was just, this is my friend.
But you desired.
For sure. For sure. No, for sure. But I would just be honest with her, and I would just be like, yo, like this is maybe somewhat. I would sometimes be like, I hope she makes the right decision. Fuck that guy. He's treating me like shit.
Joe probably was like, he's a scumbag. You don't want a guy like that.
No, for sure. Now, you know, what's funny is like, sometimes it does hit me a little harder because like I know so much and she knows so much, right? Actually, on the way here, we were talking about that, like, because obviously, you know, talking to her and telling her about my past indiscretions, like, dude, that's a real thing. Like she's got to be aware of that, you know, and sometimes maybe that could be an insecurity for her that she's going to have to deal with. But I think that's what makes us strong, is the fact that all the dirty shit under the rug, all the rocks you could turn over, it's already been talked about. There's nothing that, you know what I mean? So from here on, I have to learn my lesson, and I have to go, it's up to me to communicate with her when something's going wrong, or I'm not happy, or I'm depressed, or, you know, I'm feeling emotional, or all these things. And so that is something that's playing very heavily into me now and making me a better person.
That transparency.
The transparency
because
where
you zeroed out is what you're saying.
And even when I'm like, I don't want to talk, she pulls it out of me and she asks that question, are you okay? She realizes something's going on with me, and she will ask me about it. And we have that very open conversation. Now, sometimes they're very tough conversations. You know, I'm a little bit of an emotional fucking disaster at times, you know, because I take on a lot of responsibility that, quite frankly, probably isn't mine, you know, but I do that because I have a big community, and I care about a lot of people, and there's a lot of pressures, and I just do it, right? She's the sounding board. Now, at the same time, I've realized whether she's my girlfriend and my partner or my best friend, I realized she's really, in that aspect, just being a best friend. And now I have to go do that for other guys. And I also have to be vulnerable and have that conversation with other guys more frequently. Hey man, this is how I'm feeling. You know what I mean? This is how I'm feeling like shit too. You know what I mean? Like I feel like shit. I did wrong to people and I probably will never be able to correct that. You know, the relationship with my kids will forever be changed. You know what I mean? That has it's been easier on my son. It's been very hard on my daughter. You know, we're going on 3 months. We haven't even hung out with each other one-on-one because it's just so tough. You know, this Saturday, tomorrow is the first day we're going to actually have lunch in 3 months. Now she's a grown girl, you know, she's an adult herself. It's tough, man, to have that feeling. I know you've said it too. Like, you know, you have a daughter who's not biologically yours, right, but she's always going to be yours.
Always.
You know what I mean? And so that's probably been the hardest part about all this, but I can also only be me. I'm still a young man. You know what I mean? I'm still learning shit. I'm not perfect, but the perception from your kids is always that you're perfect. That your kids really look at you and go, you could do no wrong.
No wrong.
So unfortunately, you know, in this scenario, I have a grown adult daughter who's now looking at me going, you did wrong. And it's going to be one of the toughest things.
That's tough, Joe.
It's going to be years. It's probably going to be years before we have the same relationship we had before. But again, all I can say is at least that relationship is an opportunity and will be there in the future. But if I kept going down the same road I was going down, I don't know that would have been an option. Again, I'm not saying I was suicidal. I'm not saying I was anything. I'm saying that I probably would have made bigger mistakes had I not addressed it. And one of the things that, like, I forget what book it is and who did it. I think it was Napoleon. He literally went to war and burned the fucking ships. And he's like, we're not going back. There's no going back. Damn. There's no going back. That's what I did. I said, there's no going back. Once I do this, there's no going back.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? I could have kept doing what I was doing. I could have kept putting on a facade. I could have kept being in a marriage that I clearly was not okay in, right? Even though she was happy, I clearly was seeking attention and love in other places, which means I wasn't in love, which means, you know what I mean? I didn't love myself. And I could have kept that up for another 5 years. Could have kept that up for another 10, maybe 10 years. Boy, at some point in time, shit would have hit the fan. At least in this case, I did it early. Get it done. She has a chance to move on. You know, have a help. You know, eventually maybe have a healthier relationship. That person's going to be better to her than I was. Something, man. Something's better than nothing.
There's a couple things and you continue to touch key things, man. And one of the things that stood out. When you choose yourself, you hurt a lot of feelings. And that's just so unfortunate. You know, when you finally decide to do something for yourself, just glance around and see how many are offended.
Yeah.
You know, when you stop supporting or stop doing this for them because you have to reserve that energy or your resources for yourself because you want this, because no one's ever done it for you. No one's cared to even ask what you want. Yeah. It's just what you can provide. And that's the expectation of a man in society is, what can you provide for me? I don't know a lot of females that will get with a man who's not providing something to them. Yeah. And a lot of the time, unfortunately, it is physical. It's conditioned love. And that's hard. That's been a tough reality. When I said, Ray, you got to start loving yourself, boy. Start talking up. You know what I mean? Encouraging yourself. You got to do these things by your own.
Yeah.
Sometimes. And that, yeah, like that put me in a depressed state as well. Once I realized how lonely I truly was. When you decide to choose yourself, you lose a lot.
Oh, dude.
You lose a lot of your, you know, the little social gatherings and groups of people that you would go out and talk to. You just, certain things didn't matter as much when you start to choose yourself. You start to go an entire different path. And that isolated me. And I learned also in those moments to be a lot more graceful with people because, you know, who I am, you know a lot of me through social media and how I try to be uplifting and influencing, and I'll reach out to people as I'm constantly trying to be the helper in a lot of different scenarios and relationships. And when you stop doing that, some people can get offended. You're taking away probably the key point of their support. You know, maybe they look to you for that encouragement, but not realizing that even a hero needs a hero. And, you know, I lost some of my friendships were a little altered because, you know, some people were just a little more sensitive. They just assume that you stop contacting them, that you just don't like them.
Yeah.
You know, and just little things, just like, no, I'm just taking a little time to really restore because I'm really shattered. You know what I mean? If anybody cared to come see, they would see how shattered I am. I have nothing else to distribute. I am emotionally depleted. I don't have nothing to give you right now.
Yeah.
And how am I supposed to take that into a friendship, into another relationship? I have to restore. I have to regather what's in shambles right now.
Yeah.
And I learned that in that moment. I kind of felt that way. There's a lot of friends, petty stuff, man. They didn't come to my daughter's baby shower. I felt the way. I was like, that's my first baby, man. You got to show up to
she
my
didn't
daughter.
do nothing.
That's my, you
at least
nothing
send
to you. Like, at
send
least
something
tell me.
through Uber.
It was the no
Amazon
call, no shows.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, bro, that's kind of hurtful. But I had to learn you really don't know what people are going through. Yeah. And I don't know what phase of their life that they're in and what they may feel. They could be contemplating suicide themselves. And here I am being petty about a baby shower, which is important. But you get what I'm saying, that grace that needs to be applied. Yeah. I've learned in this dark pathway that I've had to instill some more grace unto people as I need it sometimes, as we all need it sometimes. But I definitely want to encourage people to tap into themselves in the sense of choosing themselves. Don't do it so late till you're at a point where it's unhealthy or that you've spiraled or turned into an individual that's not yourself.
Yeah.
Continue to pour into yourself.
Well, you bring it up in a good way. Like I will say that that unfortunately for me, I put on such a facade for so long. Like I didn't really give people that sample. So for them, really was sticker shock when I kind of did what I did. And it hurt a lot of people. Yep. And so, of course, like, you know, like, I mean, I just had lunch with my mom. Almost, actually, it was it was dinner. It was like a late lunch, whatever it was.
Something to eat, whatever.
Fuck it. Mm-hmm. And, you know, she's still not really over anything. Mm. You know, it impacts, you know, same thing. I had lunch with my cousin who's Julie's best friend. And, you know, it's tough. Like the family is kind of feeling a certain way, right? And like everyone's a little bit more reserved than they used to be because everything I used to say was kind of like gold, right? You're that person in the family. Like I was that person in the family. And unfortunately, there's a little bit of hesitancy to want to even be around me right now because of that. And definitely friends. Oh, man. Like, and I say friends, you know, because clearly they're not friends or weren't friends. If they were friends, they would have at least reached out or cared about me. But unfortunately, when things happened the way that they did, all those people left. You know, I felt I had a really good relationship with some of Julie's family, and completely gone. Dang, one day you're the hero. The next day you're the biggest piece of shit in the entire world. You know what I mean? And it sucks, but it's also the reality. And I don't blame them for having their opinions. You know, Julie's mom had sent me like this letter, and she just texted it to me, but she also decided to post it on Facebook, which I thought was unique. You know, It's like, hey, if you really felt like you wanted to share that with me,
reach out to me. I got
well, she sent it to me, so it's like, just send it to me. But to put it up, put it on, you know, for other people, you really just wanted attention. But you know, one of the things that was said there is like, you were never deserving of my daughter, or you were, you know, something of that nature. And it's like, well, that's very interesting because, you know, if I would have talked to you last week before this, you would have said, I love you. And you've been a blessing, and look what you've provided, and look what you know what I mean? So again, to your, like, we are only unfortunately as good as what we're providing to people a lot of the time. And when that is taken away, even if it doesn't directly impact them, if it impacted somebody that they loved or somebody they cared about, or a feeling of security, right? Like, well, he used to be this person. I used to look at him and be proud, but now I can't because he did something so wrong. They feel like you robbed them of something, right? But all you're trying to do is be the best of who you are, of who you can be, and acknowledge a mistake that you're making and try to correct course, you know what I mean, in your own life. And honestly, like one of the other people we were going to have on this podcast, you know, he had told me that he got rid of all his social. He's like, look, I got rid of all my social. He's like, I changed my, I think he changed his phone number. Definitely got rid of all his social. Gotcha. I think he changed his phone number, and he's like, I feel really good right now. I'm really happy right now because he's spending all the time with his kids. He actually has a really good co-parenting relationship with his ex.
Beautiful.
She actually went through a hard situation, had to move in with him.
Interesting.
And which is making it hard for him to be able to date and do the things that he wants to do. But he made that sacrifice as a good man, right?
I can relate. Yeah, for sure.
No, for sure. Well, look, dude, I'm still paying for all the bills. That's fair. That's what I always used to pay for the bill. So it could be a year. We could be divorced, and it could be 2 years from now, and I'm still paying for all the bills and providing, and that's okay. That's fine.
I've accepted that too.
Yeah. Financially, this wasn't a decision because of financials.
It's not okay, but I accepted that.
Yeah. Well, again, we're going to provide where we can, and that's an area of security I can still provide for a period of time, and eventually that will work itself out, right? And that financial reliance will eventually decrease over time, and that's okay. But yeah, for everybody else, the friends, the family, their level of insecurity with me right now is very interesting, and I've realized that's okay. That just actually helped. It actually helped. It's helping me right now because I now don't have to be that solid rock or foundation for 1,000 people. I now have it narrowed down to a smaller group of people that are contributing into it or hearing me out or being supportive to me. You know, I have friends that like, we just went to lunch and like, I have friends like, look, I don't have any value to add to you in the sense of I've never been in the situation you're in, right? But I just want to let you know, I still love you. I still care about you. I'm still here for you.
Who said that?
My good friend Fa. We just had lunch.
Man, kudos to him.
Yeah. Ulysses as well. Good buddy of mine. I had lunch with him recently.
Awesome.
I'm having dinner tonight with my boy Ben.
I'm not saying that because you're my boy, but I'm just saying that I'll share a story in a second. Okay. But that's an awesome approach. I just want to say, before you judge a situation, it's just.
Well, I think it's good if you're in a similar situation, right? And you feel like you have to support this. Narrowing it down, honestly, was a little bit of the relief that I needed.
Yeah. I can see
it was a little bit of the, like, I would say progressively week over week, it's gotten better. Progressively week over week, I feel better about myself. Progressively, as you know, my relationship with Maria grows, I feel better. Progressively, as Julie and I have conversations and we share, you know, pictures of Mateo at boxing, or we get on business calls together because we still run a business together.
That's right.
Progressively, you know, things do get better. There's still obviously going to be pain there. For sure. But the end of the day, life is going to move on.
I like that.
You know what I mean? It's been 3 full months. You know what I mean? What's it going to feel like a year from now?
Got to get better.
It's going to be better. I want it to be better. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. Man, let me say, I'm going to share the story on why I kind of have slow approaches when I hear of things that are going on in other people's lives. There was this lady. She's a patient. And obviously, I ain't gonna say no names, but she was a patient that was not desired by any nurse. Any nurse that had her, they fired her. They did not want her. I don't want this patient the next day because they were a handful. And it was this lady who had severe liver cirrhosis, end stage, and you know she was a drinker, and she was, you know, our alcoholics and our alcohol addicted patients are one of the worst just because of their combative behavior, sometimes by nature, their aggression, their incontinence, the blood. There's a lot that goes within these patients. So, and she would come in often because she would drink and she'd go into this like, you know, spiral of liver complications, you know, blood pressure drops, and, you know, they're just severely, they can't properly detox because of the liver is in a state of shock, so they can't get through that alcohol, so they're confused, they're becoming jaundiced, they become like a Simpson, you know. All of these things are symptoms of liver failure. And like I said, no one wanted her because she would come in often, and it's easy to judge. Oh my gosh, she's drinking again, she's drunk. They can be a little judgmental because they don't really know the backstory. So it's like, if you haven't been through it, you're not into it. You know, I just talked to her one day. I said, what's going on? You know, just like, you know, Maria would approach you. What's going on? Yeah. And they have moments of clarity, you know. And she told me she lost 2 of her kids. Her husband killed himself and both of her kids. And at the thought of it, all she can do is drink.
So her husband killed her kids.
Yep. And
their kids, and then himself.
Yes.
Fuck me.
So you look at this individual, and all she has is that bottle. So a lot of the stuff, that the decisions and what you see is just a tip of the iceberg of what's going on. And if you don't really get
it's a woman in pain. loss,
bro. I can't
shock.
even fathom. I can't even, you know what I mean? But once I got the story, I was able to deal with her with a great level of patience, kind of like your friends approached you.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on. I haven't been in your shoes, but I love you. Sometimes we need that. We'll come out some more.
Yeah.
We deal with people. Again, going back to what I was saying, we need to give people a little more grace. So before family, before others judge you for finally choosing Joe, you chose you in that situation.
Yeah.
And by doing that, you lost a lot of people that looked up to you as someone who can do no wrong. You're not God. You're a human. And sometimes our kids won't understand the decisions we make until we get to that point, until they grow up and they say, oh, it's always going to be, I used to judge my mom a lot more harsh than I do now. I understand that a lot of her decisions were really just a young individual who dealt with a lot of trauma, who never got proper help from it. And I was just the displacement of it, of her frustration.
Yeah.
And then, once I got older, I was able to see that this is an individual who needed some help. I'm never going to condone, afflicting people intentionally. If you can, do better. If you know better, do better. But you got to know better.
Yeah.
So I was able to, apply more grace as I got older. I was able to kind of understand what they were thinking and doing. But sometimes it takes time. So going back to your stepdaughter, I hope that that's a scenario for her or others. Just because people are older don't mean they're going through what we're going through, how we're going through it. And it may hit them later and they may understand like, I get it.
Yeah.
So I just hope that we all are a little more graceful and understanding that we're not monsters. We're just trying to get by.
Yeah.
We're just trying to, survive and be loved. And be happy.
Yeah. It's I will say this, leading up into my decision, I reached out to my mom and my dad. Okay. And my stepdad and my stepmom. And uniquely enough, my mom and dad had a very similar separation. So my dad is, I'm almost.
You didn't know about that either, clearly, because.
No, I did. It's a little bit different from the way I kind of understood it. But my dad and mom separated when I was about 3 years old. My dad immediately jumped into a new relationship, married her, and within 2 years had a whole new family. Right. You know what I mean? So, and my mom in that aspect, obviously, she had her life, what she felt like, taken away from her, right? Like her husband's gone, moved on. She's got 3 kids she's got to raise by herself. And, obviously I didn't disappear like that. Right. And so I had to have that conversation with my mom and said, hey, look, here's what's going on. Here's how I'm feeling. Here's the scenario.
That's what I'm doing.
And I basically had to talk to my mom as if she was Julie. Like in my mom's eyes, she's looking at it from Julie's perspective. Yes, in my dad's eyes, I'm kind of him, and that really, I think, has been a unique experience for me to learn. So to your point of bringing up your parents and all of us, like, fuck, man, you know what I mean? I don't know. It's just life is the way that it is. And I think at the end of the day, none of us can paint a perfect picture. I don't think there's a single stroke of a brush any of us can paint our lives in. We are all a little lost. We're all a little bit of a disaster. Absolutely. I think the more everyone just talks about what they're going through, the better chance we all have of making it through. You know what I mean? And the better we have of supporting each other. And we got to stop pretending we're perfect.
That's it.
We got to stop pretending we're perfect. We got to stop pretending we have to be perfect.
That is it.
It's
crazy because at the departure of my engagement, there was, friends that they were common friends. Like we met as couples and they're couples, and these couples don't kind of mess with us no more because we're no longer a couple. And it's like, this is the image. You guys only were befriending us because of our unisons, or, or did you just care for us individually? And it's unfortunate because, what seems to have dismantled is no longer there. So it's just like, what's the substance? You know what I mean? And I feel like each relationship needs to be authentic to the point where it's not like you guys as a couple, or I don't like, it's just about individual and just genuine connections with people. Yeah. So I hope more of that, because if everyone had that approach, I think they would judge just a little less. Yeah. They would deal with us with just a little more grace. Yeah. If that makes any sense.
My friend Ben and Vanessa, they've actually they've been put a little bit in like that unique position, and they've handled it very gracefully. So before our separation, we were asked to be godparents, and so next month we are going to be baptizing together. Yeah, awesome. Absolutely. We'll be baptizing together, and like we both love that little boy, and we're unofficial godparents to Ben's daughter, but Julie raised her, and like the reality is that's Auntie Julie and I'm Uncle Joe.
Either way.
And and so in that aspect, like those friends have done a great job of navigating it. His girlfriend Vanessa has gone out multiple times with Julie, but she's also hung out with me and heard my side of things and understood certain aspects.
Love and,
So I don't think they do anything. I think they listen with intention, and they don't judge one way or the other. We both have our own opinions of how things happened or how things could have been, and so on and so forth. But they've done a great job as friends being there for both of us. And, like I said, I'm going there tonight to go hang out with them.
Nice.
Julie's gone out with them multiple times. You know what I mean? And I think from a friend standpoint, that's what you want. If you're if you do have friends that separate, like be good to them.
Of course.
Be good to them. Ben had separated a year prior to us from his ex-wife before he moved on with Vanessa. And I think we were totally open to being somewhat friends with his ex-wife, but that got taken away from us because the child dispute and the divorce got a little sideways from what they had originally talked about doing. One person wanted more, and just it wasn't fair. You know what I mean? And so you have to pick. Unfortunately, in that scenario, it's like we got our friend Ben in the divorce, right? And so we don't want that to happen. Definitely there's some friends, like I said, that I wish would have reached out, but they made a choice to specifically take one side of things, and I'm not going to judge them. That was their choice. Family is always way more complicated. Family's way more complicated. I've made it clear to all my family, I have zero expectations that you guys would do anything other than continue to care and love for my kids and for Julie the same way you've always have. I would never ask you. On the other end, unfortunately, I have definitely been blacklisted that entire scenario. So, you like I said, I'm happier in the sense that I get to focus on a smaller set of circle. And I think, again, for everybody who's going through it, just look around you, look for your support where you can get it. But ultimately, you don't really need anybody other than yourself. You really just need to be able to make a decision on what you want for your life, make the decision, and you live with it, and life is going to move on. People are going to forget. You're going to meet new people. I'm going to meet new friends that are never even going to know that I was married. You know what I mean?
Fresh start every day.
Yeah.
Every day, new opportunities for many different things. And friendships.
Yeah.
They are one.
Yeah.
They are one.
Yeah. One of the conversations I had the other day was with a good friend, and then he ended up sending me this song. I don't think we'll play it on here, but it's Schoolboy Q, Blue Slides.
Yes, sir.
And in kind of awareness of what us men are going through, I do want to kind of read some of these lyrics. So it says, "Been in a prison in my own house. I don't know if they noticed. I done broke down so many times. Next time, it's going to catch me. I done helped out so many people. They took me for granted. I done lost out on so much shit trying to live to your standards. I done made problems my problems. Now I barely can breathe. I was always good at everything, especially my dreams, but lately I ain't really been feeling myself ain't strong as I seemed." And the song goes on multiple times. It talks about being a father and the pressures of providing and doing things like that. But
that was very well put.
That song, man, if you're a guy, if you're going through something, listen to that song. It might touch base. If you're a woman who thinks your man is going through something, listen to that song. It might touch base. I will say this. I had multiple friends reach out to me who said, "Hey, I don't know the scenario of what you're going through." This is guys and girls, by the way. "I don't know the scenario of what you're going through, but I appreciate you putting it out there for us to see. I'm going through something similar. Can you help me decide, like, what was your deciding factor? Or,
Absolutely.
How can I..."
These are things.
And almost all of them, I said the same thing. Communication. You need to have a conversation with your partner. You need to decide if you're going to be happier. Make a very easy decision. Are you going to be happier with or without that person? We don't need to overcomplicate it. If you're going to be happier without that person, you need to have that conversation with them. I wish I would have done things differently. I wish I would have had that conversation a lot sooner than I did. But ultimately, we're human, and for everybody that reached out to me, it just shows you not everybody's happy in their relationships. But some of the women that reached out to me, what they were doing was they were saying, how do I make sure that this doesn't happen to me? And for the women that might listen to this podcast, I would highly suggest that you tell your man thank you, that you acknowledge how hard it is for him to wake up when he wakes up, go to sleep when he goes to sleep, put in the hard work, what it feels like for him when he fails. Okay, that is a big thing. Us men are not good at failures. We're not good at failing at something. So if your man is, trying his best and is trying to provide for you and trying to be loving to you and trying to do these things and he does not feeling successful, just tell him thank you. Give him a hug. Tell him it's going to be okay. Tell him you appreciate him. Tell him that we're going to get through this together. You know what I mean? Just be present and understand us men, we're an emotional roller coaster too. Most Absolutely. Men, especially right now in their 30s, women go through menopause, men go through low testosterone, and that actually impacts it makes us depressed, it makes us weak, it makes us feel insecure. And most men that I talk to are obviously my age, they're in their mid-30s, they're all experiencing that right now. So you need to hug your man and tell him it's going to be okay. That'll pay dividends for sure.
That's huge, bro. And that's something that touched into why I kind of made my departure as well, as not being felt, in the middle of the storm. You don't want to feel alone, in these hard times. And I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna give the females a little insider here. We be having guy talks with each other, and there's one of my best friend, his neighbor, shared a little bit about his relationship and his commitment. He always talks about his commitment and his love for his partner and his dedication just to be with her because of what they went through and the time that he was homeless. And I don't think she was, and just her support to sleep with him wherever he was. Wow. In the car, and to pick him up and to be patient enough to keep encouraging him at his emotionally low point in life. That you never know where that could have led without her support by his side. It could have went to a suicidal route. Like, again, when you don't feel that love for yourself, when you don't feel like you're accomplishing anything, you feel like life has no point. And his adoration for her stemmed because you were next to me in the hardest times of my life. And granted, they're still working to get to what they want to get to, it seems like. But he just shared, and this is among guys. This ain't in front of her or he got to fake it. He just telling us behind the scenes, like, this is why I adore her the way that I do. And I couldn't help but feel it, because I'm like, man, you know what? That's actually real. That's raw stuff. Because guess what? As we go through the hardest chapters of our life, we can get through it with the person, hopefully, that if you're in a relationship with that person alongside you don't want to look back and feel like they're just dragging you behind, in junction with life, whatever it's throwing at you. You don't want to be able to happen to fight that and drag this individual. You want that person to be by you, and you have your vulnerable moments. And these are things that we're repeating throughout the podcast, because these are things that need to be repeated, as men are constantly neglecting these very, sentiments.
Yeah. Well, shit, we touched on a lot today. Super, super raw. Probably the most authentic we've had. Most authentic I've probably been on a podcast in a long time. Yeah. It's a little bit of behind the scenes and what's going on, but again, if people have questions, they could reach out, they could ask. There's no secrets. There's nothing under the rug. For anybody that listens to this, if you're going through something, feel free to reach out, DM me. I'd be more than happy to talk to you. My phone number, I'll reach out to you and send it to you and we can talk. But reach out to your friends, family, tell them you're going through something. If you're a woman and you think your man is going through something, or you're a partner and you think your partner's going through something, just reach out to them, talk to them. Don't accept no for an answer. You can pull it out. Are you okay? Is an okay thing to ask your partner, especially if they know that you love them. A hug goes a long way.
I was about to say, one of the greatest things you can do is to embrace them with no words. And as they try to release, you squeeze tighter. You'd be amazed.
Yeah.
The emotional juice that will come out.
Yeah.
The tears.
Give your man a hug for sure.
And squeeze. And don't let go. Love it. Don't let go.
All right. Episode 7. That's a wrap.
Ski.
We see you guys.
Yes.